Greetings, fellow Whovians! Well, today we're going to look at yet another really sad, tragic episode. Not as tragic as last week, but tragic nonetheless. So, let's take a trip to Paris, France, 1572 with the Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve. Yes, another one with a pretty long title. Anyway, let's get started. The arrival of the TARDIS to Paris, France in 1572 placed its occupants, the first Doctor Stephen Taylor, in a dangerous situation. Tensions between Protestants and Catholics are at fever pitch in the city, with younger hotheads like Gaston, Viscount de Lorance, a Protestant Huguenot nobleman, and Simon Duval, a Catholic, drawn into violent confrontation in a tavern. Despite the danger, the Doctor heads off alone to visit the apothecary Charles Preslin, leaving Stephen to drink alone but warning him to keep out of trouble. Moments later, Stephen attracts the attention of the landlord of the tavern for not setting his bill, but is helped out financially by Nicholas Muss, a Huguenot, who welcomes him to his party of drinkers. Muss explains that the marriage of the Protestant prince Henry of Navarre to the Catholic princess Marguerite de Valois, the sister of the king, is the cause of the heightened tension in Paris. While Stephen, Gaston, and Nicholas are wandering home, they find a frightened serving girl, Anne Chaplet, who is terrified of being pressed in the service of the Catholic abbot of Amboise. Anne is also scared because she had heard some guards in the pay of the cardinal mention how a religious massacre of Huguenots back in her hometown of Wassy a decade earlier can now be replicated in Paris. To protect her and her knowledge, Nicholas arranges for Anne to go into the service of his master, Admiral Gaspard de Coligny, the most senior Protestant advisor at the royal court. Stephen also stays with the admiral to avoid curfew in the city, as the Doctor has now returned to the tavern as arranged. The next day, the abbot of Amboise has arrived at his Parisian residence. He bears the exact likeness and voice of the Doctor. He is a religious zealot who acts as a enforcer to the absent Cardinal of Lorraine. But the abbot is about to journey to Paris to conduct a witch hunt against all heresy, including the apothecaries and the Huguenots. He sends his secretary, Roger Colbert, out to track down the missing Anne Chaplet, convinced she has worked out the threat to the Protestants. Colbert makes for de Coligny's house and tries to convince Nicholas, Gaston, and Stephen that Anne has been over-creative in her interpretation of what she heard. A little later, Stephen spies Colbert talking to the abbot about the situation, and is stunned that the cleric seems to be the Doctor. When Stephen and Nicholas track down Preslin's shop to try to find the Doctor, discover it has been closed since Preslin was arrested for heresy 2 years before. This news makes Nicholas suspicious that Stephen is a spy in the employ of the Doctor/abbot. In the Council of France, a power struggle is in place between the impassioned Catholic Tavannes, Marshal of France, and the more cautious Admiral de Coligny, who is trying to persuade the court to back the Dutch in their war against Spain. Stephen has now fallen out with and evaded Nicholas Muss, taking his chances in the streets of Paris alone. He heads for the abbot's house, believing him to be the Doctor, and hides there while Tavannes, Duval, and Colbert meet to discuss their plans. The Seabaker dies tomorrow, assures Tavannes, as an assassin has been engaged to kill him when he departs with the Royal Council in the Louvre. The Seabaker is accounting for de Coligny, but the conspirators do not reveal this. With night falling again, Stephen heads out again and finds Anne following him. She has been dismissed from service for protesting Stephen's innocence in the Catholic plot. Tied the night at Preslin's empty shop, then tried to determine to find the identity of the Seabaker. When the council resumes at the Louvre the next morning, Tavannes and de Coligny are still locked in conflict. They also argue about domestic matters, with de Coligny urging more action to protect the Huguenots. Stephen and call upon the abbot, where he learns that both the Doctor is not the abbot and the identity of the Seabaker. The pair flee before Anne can be confined, alerting the abbot, Tavannes, and Colbert of their danger since they evidently know too much. Stephen and Anne make contact with Nicholas Muss and warn him the assassination of his master about to take place. Nicholas bolts off and witnesses the assassination attempt, but de Coligny is merely wounded. Tavannes believes the bludgeon assassination. Tavannes believes the bungled assassination is the fault of the abbot, who has become a liability, and the cleric is placed under arrest, suspected of being an impostor. De Coligny has meanwhile been moved to his house, and a surgeon called. As Stephen and Nicholas tend to him, they too receive news that the abbot of Amboise has died. Stephen is distraught. He's probably convinced that the doctor has adopted the abbot's guise, heads to the abbot's lodgings, and sees the dead body there. It seems the abbot has been assassinated too, inflaming the Catholic mob outside the house, which does not disappoint the real culprits, Colbert and Tavannes. On the following day, Stephen heads back to Preston's shop and is reunited with Anne. A little later, the doctor himself arrives. He is very insistent he and Stephen must depart the city as soon as possible. Anne is sent to Anne's house, with a warning from the doctor that she must stay there. She heads up while Stephen and the doctor head across the city. The Queen Mother has now persuaded the king that the Huguenots are a threat to his reign, and has signed an edict authorizing Huguenot massacre over the next 24 hours. Simon Duval and Colbert greet the coming massacre more ugly and bloodless than that displayed by Tavannes, who fears the Queen Mother has gone too far. The doctor and Stephen make it to TARDIS just as the curfew is falling and depart as the massacre begins. Stephen is worried for Anne and his friends, and angry that the doctor made him leave. The doctor insists that history could not be changed. The colony Nicholas Muss will be amongst the dead, and possibly Anne too. Stephen cannot accept that the doctor had to leave Anne behind, and is so disgusted with his colleague that he determines to leave his company. When the TARDIS lands, Stephen offers a terse goodbye and ventures out into a woodland area. The doctor is left totally alone for the first time, and reflects on the other companions that have traveled with him and left him, and his inability to return home. The TARDIS has arrived in 1966, and the young girl enters the vehicle thinking it to be a police box on Wimbledon Common. A small child has been hurt in a road accident, and she wishes to make a call. Stephen arrives back too, saying that the policemen are approaching, and starts softens when the young woman introduces herself as Dorothea or Dodo Chaplet. The doctor, hearing Stephen's warning of the approaching policeman, hurriedly dematerializes the TARDIS, not noticing until after it has left 1966 that Dodo was still on board. Stephen informs her that there is no way back and we can land anywhere, but Dodo seems either unworried or simply doesn't believe him. She says she is an orphan who lives with her great aunt and thus has a few ties, and as the TARDIS continues to hum, hurling them toward their next great adventure. Whew, man, that was a lot in there. And for those who haven't actually seen this story, I apologize if I accidentally butchered up the names, so there you go. Anyway, let's look at the production elements of this story, shall we? The last episode of the serial introduces Dodo Chaplet, played by Jackie Lane. The story suggests that Dodo might be a descendant of Anne Chaplet. However, it has often been pointed out that this would only be possible if Anne had an illegitimate child or married someone else who shared her surname. John Le Carrotti's novelization, Anne has a younger brother, Raoul, who could have survived to father a child and pass on the family name. Also, the doctor himself dismisses the suggestion of a connection between Dodo and Anne Chaplet, declaring that it was a very common French name. Script editor Donald Tosh actually wrote most of the serial himself, after the script delivered by John Le Carrotti was considered to be too far from the storyline pitch to Le Carrotti by Tosh and producer John Wiles. Le Carrotti was reportedly so outraged by the changes that he demanded his name be removed from the credits. There are conflicting accounts as to whether or not this request was enacted or rescinded. Tosh was also credited as the co-writer on the last episode. Incoming story editor Jerry Davis was credited on the final episode in place of Tosh. According to the book Doctor Who Companions by David J. Howe and Mark Samers, the final episode of the serial was included to have a cameo appearance by William Russell and Jacqueline Hill, reprising their roles as former companions Ian Chesterton and Barbara Wright. The scene had Ian and Barbara witnessing the dematerialization of the TARDIS after Dodo enters. Although the scene was scheduled, it was not filmed. Aw, man! A few original production documents state the name of the serial as The Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve, although this is an anachronism, as the actual massacre took place on St. Bartholomew's Day. Some have noted that as the original French name for the event, Massacre de la St. Bartholomew likes a day, the title actually refers to the lead up to the massacre itself, that is, the eve of the Massacre of St. Bartholomew. The BBC radio collection release gives the title as variously The Massacre and The Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve. The packaging uses the title The Massacre, but the accompanying booklet uses both titles. The CDs have The Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve printed on them, and this is also the title announced by Peter Purves on the discs themselves. William Hartnell was on holiday during the filming of episode 2. The Doctor does not feature in the episode, and the Abbot appears in the pre-film scene only. Leonard Sachs later played Barusa in Arkham Infinity. Michael Bolton later played Collins in Pyramids of Mars and Time Lord in The Deadly Assassin. Christopher Tranchell later played Jenkins in The Faceless Ones, Governor Android in The Invasion of Time. David Weston later played Barak in Warrior's Gate. Well, that was certainly a lot for one episode, huh? So, great story, and historical, and also introduces a new companion. So, with that being said, I give The Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve 3 sonic screwdrivers out of 5. Well, join me next time as we see Dodo's first full adventure with the Doctor and Stephen in The Ark. Until next time, this is Hoovy Queen saying, "Oh my Gideons! When I say run, run! I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow. Would you like a jelly, baby? Fantastic! Allons-y! Geronimo!" Bow ties are cool, fezzes are cool, and Stetsons are cool.